Hello, I'm Kenneth Kennar.
And I'm Autumn Seipel.
Today we are going to talk about Autumn's project she did for the yearbook. So, Autumn, what was your project?
Well, I had to work on the Trooper Blue Day, which was a day where students could wear blue to support a fallen police officer. So what I did was I deleted everything on the page, and to start, I went into Photoshop and started to create a background because the original background was just a plain blue layer. So I decided to create a gradient with the gradient tool using various shades of blue.
So, you said you're making a gradient. I noticed in Photoshop that there's a gradient pop-up thing that has nodes in it that you can slide. The bottom ones are for the color, and the top ones, I don't know what they are for. Do you know what they are for?
Well, I really didn't use them for this project because I felt they weren't necessary, but what they do is when you select them, they can change how visible that part of color is from a bottom node. So it's known as opacity. You select them and type in a number for how visible you want them to be. I didn't really use them because they're hard to use in my opinion and not worth it, so I just made colors, different shades of blue, the bottom nodes, and moved them around, and then saved the image as a JPEG and made a frame on the InDesign page and put it in there. So the next thing I started to do was I needed text for the page. I just made basic dark blue text. It said Trooper Blue Day and put a drop shadow under it using effects in InDesign. And then the next thing I did was there had been photos taken of different groups of students wearing blue on the day. So I looked at the pictures taken by the yearbook team and went through and found the ones that I thought were the best. And what I did was I was going to put them on the page, so I put them in frames in Photoshop. InDesign, I mean.
So, you said that you, I'm not sure if you said this, but you can use the frame tool to make frames for pictures to put them in InDesign. If you didn't have those, then, you couldn't put pictures in.
Correct.
But you said how do you scale them? What do you use to scale them if the picture's too big or something and it doesn't fit,
Well, I'll talk about, first thing, of course, was you'd draw the actual frames on the page with the frame tool. Then you'd bring in the files, actual pictures, by going to File, Place, and bringing them in. Sometimes the pictures would be too big and you'd have to select the picture and bring it down by double-clicking on the frame until there's a brown outline, which means you selected the picture, and scale that down to fit in the frame. But sometimes with the frame there might be a part of a picture that draws attention away from, say, the group of students. So what you do to crop out parts of the pictures would be you just select the frame itself, which would be at a blue outline, and then you touch the nodes on the picture, because when you select those and drag them on the photo, that makes a frame smaller, and since the picture isn't being scaled down with it, pictures of the parts of the picture will disappear. And then after that, there was one final thing I did with the page, since it was for a police officer who'd fallen in the line of duty, so I decided it'd be a good idea to get a badge, so I went on Google Images and looked at some different Pennsylvania State Trooper badges until I found one I liked. And then I saved it and brought it into Photoshop and used the magic wand tool to get rid of the background around it. And then, however, there was still probably some small particles, around the edges. So what I did was I made a black solid and put it underneath, and then I zoomed in and started using the eraser tool.
So, you made a badge for the Trooper Blue Day logo, and you brought this into InDesign, right?
Yeah.
So, I know if, you were erasing some of the background, and you said that if you were to erase some of the background and stuff, you would make it transparent, right?
Yeah.
And JPEGs are one of the popular
Yeah, they're the
files,
most commonly used.
but they don't support transparency.
No, they don't.
So what kind of file did you use?
Well, I used Ping because, as you said before, JPEGs and other popular file formats for images. If you bring an image with no background in, it'll add a white layer. But with Pings, it just has the actual image you want to save, not the white, because you can't have that. You wouldn't be able to have that badge on just a page with a stupid white background around it.
So, you use the erase tool on the badge to zoom in and look at the spots you missed.
Yeah.
But how did you zoom in?
Well,
What tool did you use to zoom in InDesign?
Well, with
Photoshop, I mean.
Photoshop, there's two ways to zoom in. Towards the bottom left corner, there's a box. You can type in a number to zoom in. I don't tend to use that because it's a pain, though. I tend to actually go on the toolbox and look at the tools. You find the magnifying glass, or as it's called in Photoshop, the InDesign. I mean, not InDesign, Photoshop. It's called the it's a magnifying glass, but it's called the zoom tool. When you click on the area you want to zoom in on, and it zooms in on the area. But if you want to zoom, if you hit Alt click and if you hit Alt while you click it, you can zoom out as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's all the questions I have for you right now.
Okay.
So, good.